WESN.
Good morning and welcome to Talking Point. Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Sean Michael Small, here once again to have the important discussions of the day. My co-host will be hopefully joining us soon by the next segment after the next break. However, in the meantime, we have to get the ball rolling. The show must go on. We can't put the brakes and hold up the discussions. And right now, I actually find it very interesting. Thanks once again to Ms. Marquise Akers and Denise Martin for News on the Hour. That news story there perhaps shows that what is plaguing TNT these days, this year, these years, what is plaguing us is not necessarily unique to us. As that incident in Canada, that was the last news story previously that you would have heard on News on the Hour, seems to be something of an anomaly of a crime, to be honest, as police, well, I myself have not necessarily heard anything quite like it before, with 8 teenage girls, some as young as 13, meeting up for the first time and engaging in violence that led to the death of a man. However, that's an anomaly. There might be extreme circumstances elsewhere. Of course, you know, there's civil unrest right now, protests which are leading to the deaths of hundreds of protesters being carried out in Iran. We know that there's civil unrest all over different parts of the Caribbean region, Latin America in particular. Haiti, of course, has a significant amount of gang violence, and one wonders if that island has reached the point where it is completely out of control. Now in TNT, we have not necessarily reached that point. However, I have to say, I did hope at the beginning of the week that perhaps somehow we saw a little bit of slowdown in the violence, and maybe I goat-mouthed the situation because the murders are coming in fast and furious. Now it's a father and son. We don't necessarily know what the father and son might have been involved in, and by involved, it could mean a lot of things, including just standing up to them for themselves against people looking to bully them for whatever minor reason, and then it escalates because a lack of respect for law and order means that those who are willing have no fear of arrest or prosecution. So if you get in their way, no matter how small or large, they will just decide to nip the problem in the bud. But that means the death of 2 more individuals. And that is not the only criminal violent act that we have to be concerned about today. I don't know. The flip side is, or along that same path, the Children's Authority is now investigating grooming allegations at St. Jude's, which is ironic because I do believe that a home for migrant girls was just opened and the keys were handed to the management of St. Jude's. We could open homes, we could build new things, we could build new hospitals, we could build new schools, while not necessarily fixing the old ones. We could spend a lot of money to implement things. But not only is it managed poorly most of the time, but also it's not well maintained, either because of the poor management or because of the lack of resources, or because it's impractical. Perfect example is Napa. But now we're going a step further. There's allegations of grooming. We've already seen the various institutions have various allegations and speculations leveled against them. So when I initially saw that story, I wanted to comment, I wasn't any time, but we were running out of time. I did not expect my point or my concerns to be so directly brought up in one of the daily newspapers so soon. So how am I supposed to take this migrant home, home for migrant girls, and think, yes, this is a good idea? Because the management that will be overseeing that home technically is overseeing another situation where there are allegations, which we've reached the point where there's no benefit of the doubt anymore, because there's too much cloud of suspicion hanging over the head of our various institutions that it's very difficult to have confidence in them. Very difficult. Now, I guess one of the things that I thought of this morning, and I'm not willing to agree to it, I'm not advocating for it, and I still stand against it, but I do wonder, to the average citizen of TNT, would you care if the police got more aggressive? Or would you be happy for it? That's a slippery slope that I really do not want to start. But I am curious with regards to what do you think? Because that mindset will potentially also lead to vigilantism. And right now, the government might be looking at the firearms users license situation and saying, well, we have to nip this in the bud, which is, of course, ironic, because law-abiding citizens can't arm themselves, while criminals, well, the guns are coming through the ports of entry, whether it's through the actual seaport, where the scanners aren't working, or through the airport, where the scanners, I do believe, should be working. I mean, I know passengers get screened with X-ray machines. We don't have something similar for cargo or freight. National Geographic had that episode about guns being smuggled through suitcases to Trinidad. That was years ago. We played that, I think, as much as almost 2 years ago. Early last year, early 2021. And that was old then. This is not something new. This is not something that we should be taken by surprise about. These weapons are way too modern. These aren't old, surplus Soviet era, Cold War era arms from Europe or even from America. That's one thing I could tell you. They ain't surplus arms. These look quite modern, quite new, and as we have seen in various situations, quite deadly. Now, there's a video circulating. I'm not entirely sure if it is the video of the murder of the father and son. That murder used handguns. If there is the most minor, insignificant of silver linings, it is that, well, the criminals in that situation, they only were armed with handguns. Whoop-de-doo. I say that to point out just how worse that situation could be if those criminals were armed with more powerful weapons. And with that attitude, what might they be willing to do moving forward from here on out? So again, I ask, what do you, as citizens of this country, what do you want to see happen? Do you want to see the police get more aggressive? But you need to understand that if the police get more aggressive, it might turn back towards you. You might end up being the man in Belmont, getting his face slammed into the back of a police car. We have, hopefully, the ASP here today. He might be able to shed some light on that. And I'm told he is here, which means he's probably shaking his head right now, anticipating the hot seat that he's going to be in. However, with that said, I want to move on to some of the more macro situations or details of this overall crime in TNT situation. First, UNC is going after the Minister of National Security. I understand you're supposed to do that. He does not necessarily look good based on the results. And while results-based analysis is not always the best way to look at things, when the murder rate is pushing 600, you can't fault people for that. That said, I honestly would like to hear more than just, I blame him. Anybody could do that. We do that. Our callers do that. You're the opposition. What's your plan? What's your ideology? What's your philosophy? What do you suggest that the government do differently that the government is not doing? You see, the idea is, this is what I don't understand. Why do politicians allow the opposing party to steal their ideas all the time? You publish your ideas, and then you keep a record of when your ideas were published. And if they steal your ideas, you could point to the paper of that day. Look, this was our idea. They just steal our idea because they don't know what they're doing. Vote for us. You see, that is politics 101, I would think. But I can't even see that from our politicians. Because the people need to hear ideas. I myself am all out of ideas. With regards to crime, you really need to have an understanding of what's going on behind the scenes. There's a lot that we're never going to know because it's too sensitive to release to the public. It will compromise sources, methods, means, processes. It will make law enforcement more difficult. However, the opposition leader used to be the prime minister at one point in time. She even declared a state of emergency due to crime because there were forces at play that threatened her administration. Ooh, we never found out what those forces were. At least I didn't. Maybe I'm totally oblivious and unaware. Maybe that rumor didn't hit me. Regardless, what is her ideas? Meanwhile, what I really would like to hear the opposition about, because Minister of National Security, yeah, okay, right. Honestly, I think you could put anybody from Parliament. You could even put a UNC member, you'll get the same results. The challenges are more than just based on his seat. It's just that the current minister is not making it easy. Cool. Now, Gary Griffith is looking like a shilling because the government is making him look brilliant, like a genius, like a superhero. He might very well be none of those things. He might be just another politician that is very sensitive to criticism, that gets overly defensive, and very much likes to attack his critics, to bully them to shut up. He might be those things. Some people very much believe he is those things, but there are other people who look at the man's results. And one could argue that yes, the crime situation in 2021 wasn't looking that good until his contract ended. But people still perceived it to be better, and perception with regards to certain things like the economy, like the society, that matters. If we perceive police to be more effective, then criminals might hesitate a little bit more before deciding, hey, it's open season on this citizen or that citizen. In broad daylight, we're going to gun him down in front of his house. Gun down his child before we gun him down. Government is making Gary look like a genius. Government is making Gary look right. Politics 101, don't do things to make your political opponents look right, because then, in comparison, you look wrong. Now, the AG, funny how when somebody in cabinet does something bad, somebody else has to come out, like the AG, to say, oh, no, this wasn't what was going on. Or, Paria, craps the bed, so the minister has to come out and save the chairman because he can't do nothing for himself. I don't know what. Chairman, CEO or chairman of a private entity doesn't have a government minister to do their crisis management for them. Anyway, AG comes out and say, well, it was never the intention of the government for people in the report not have a chance to be heard. The problem is, again, you need to anticipate things before you communicate. do not say that you intend to lay the report in Parliament when Parliament reopens, and as far as I'm aware, say nothing else. At the time, you didn't say that your intention was to allow people to be heard. After losing the appeal, not even the first case, not even the original hearing, you lose the appeal, then the AG, not even the Prime Minister, comes to correct the situation. The AG comes out with the excuse, oh, well, we never intended. You're like 3 chapters too late to come and give us that excuse now. And you know what? It might be true. It might be true. But your communication is so ineffective, I will very much doubt anybody except the diehards will be willing to believe you. To me, the truth, things like this, the truth almost don't even matter. Because again, perception is reality. And when you set your own perception up, that is to say, how the country perceives you and your messaging, to be so bad, to be interpreted so wrongly, to leave you looking more or less in one of the worst ways off that you possibly can, well, at that point, the truth becomes irrelevant because how you are negatively perceived becomes the reality of the public. Perception of negativity drops confidence. Confidence, then there's no participation. You want help? You want the public to help you in the fight against crime? Well, you're looking like you're making all the wrong moves for all the wrong reasons. So what is the point of sticking my neck out to help you when you can't even handle the most basic, rudimentary, fundamental task of governance, much less ensure that the Ministry of National Security and its various arms have their noses clean? Regardless of whether they are clean or not, we still need to perceive that the government could ensure that for us. But when it's a field day for corruption, you think people are going to be confident that they'll be safe to stick their neck out? Your own situation indirectly undermines any effort by the protective services to try to clean up their own act. So thanks for that. All of these things affect each other. Our country is not a society made up of various little silos where we could isolate each problem and say, well, we don't know how to fix it, so we'll just put it off to the side. No, they compound each other. And now there's another family just before Christmas. Again. And I guess maybe that's why people don't want to protest, because why bother? That's what my co-host told me when I said, why don't people protest? He said, well, doesn't seem to get anything done. And the government, of course, is short-sighted, potentially being perceived as a government that suppresses protests. Well then, people are just going to be indifferent. And when you ask them for help, again, why would they bother? Folks, I way over time. We have to take a break. When we come back, hopefully my co-host will join me. And of course, later on, we will have the ASP, Ashraf Ali, in the hot seat. Well, crime is the topic of the day. Stay tuned. This is Talking Point of WESN, your content capital.
It's the season to be jolly. That brings a smile. That lasts a lifetime from Simon's Musical Supplies. We have drums of all kinds. Quattro, myra, guitar, trumpet, clarinets, and flutes. Musical dreams all come true. At Simon's, we have it all for you. A violin, a mandolin, steel pan, a piano, or simply a music stand. Music books and everything for a band. Simon's Musical Supplies.
Come visit our new location, 24th Street, Port of Spain, or call 625-6412.
Musical dreams all come true. Your Christmas is safe with us at PCU. Police Credit Union. Police Credit Union. Your Christmas is safe with us at PCU. Police Credit Union. PCU. Police Credit Union.
Get an easy zero-interest Christmas loan at Police Credit Union today. Borrow up to $25,000 with affordable monthly payments. New members, you get up to $10,000. No interest, no installments until January. Apply online at www.policecreditunion.com. Loan subject to credit approval.
Step into a spacious place of creative ideas for your home space. Our floor and wall tiles and natural stone is ideal for any use you need in your home. Toilet, bathroom sets and vanities lend design to your creativity, while jacuzzis and shower enclosures create the mood for dwelling on life's pleasures. Lamps and lighting fixtures add ambience and memorable pictures.
Wholesale lights, tiles and bath, making your home a work of art.
Hosins Industrial Complex, Union Road, Marabella.
The best laptops and tablets are at dbesttoys.com. Get a Gateway 14.1-inch Ultra Slim notebook or an HP 14-inch laptop at the best prices in TNT. Get the Fire 7 tablet for $474. You can also shop the latest Amazon Fire Sticks. Call now at 32-DBEST to order or visit us in-store at Forces Flagship Mac Bean. Shop online now at dbesttoys.com. Free delivery available throughout Trinidad and Tobago. Cash or links on delivery.
I am Rondell Donowa, attorney at law and host of Strictly Legal on WESN Content Capital. Strictly Legal is a legal program geared towards informing you, the public, of your legal rights, responsibilities, and remedies. So be viewing Thursdays 10 a.m. to 10:30 a.m.
Before we bring the ASP out onto the desk. Now, switching gears a bit, I did note earlier this week there were reports saying that sales in certain parts of the country, including Tobago, were slow. And then there is a new report published here where, well, at least for certain retailers in Tobago, business is decent. I myself, while doing my own Christmas shopping, also, spoke to the cashiers and the attendants at a couple of the retail outlets I went to, and at least certain retail areas, and those who try to shop there this week would know, have been quite busy. I think it's an interesting situation we're at. I do wonder if to some extent it is because at the end of the day, yes, for Carnival, for Christmas, and for other times of the year with similar circumstances, you could see people trying to do some kind of retail business, whether it is that they have a shop all year round, or they make a stall, they put up a stall, or they rent a stall for the season, and business for the season is not great. Well, perhaps that aspect of the economy isn't necessarily good. But to what extent do those seasonal retailers, well, are they successful or not successful before all of these economic woes and COVID and what have you? The flip side is, because I know with regards to woodworking, I know of two woodworkers. One had business right through. One business leading up to Christmas was slow, and then just before Christmas, everybody tried to bombard him for requests. It's an aspect of the economy where one of the things that you do to do theoretical models to try to work things out, you would say, well, in a perfect free market economy, you also have to include the assumption of perfect information, and that is, I know what's available, and I know where to find it, and it's not difficult for me, therefore, to access it. With regards to tourism, with regards to government services, with regards to a lot of things in this country, and it's not limited to us, you see this elsewhere as well. Is it that we're not doing a good job with regards to really and truly marketing ourselves to ourselves? You ask the average person, what is there to do or see in the country? You know, half the time you might get good answers, half the times you might get I don't know. I don't really see much, I don't know what's out there. This sort of thing, however, now goes a step further. We're trying to have economic recovery. The government is saying small and medium businesses. I guess government don't care about big business, except when they need a bailout and all of that jazz, you know, clico, blah, blah, blah. But what happens if a small business fails because lack of awareness? And of course, as a TV station, we would say, well, come and advertise, but for small and micro business, it's difficult. And one might even argue not necessarily justifiable, small and micro, to do TV advertisements while they're starting up and they're probably still in the red for a couple of years. I mean, right now, big brands and all had difficulty for the last couple of years advertising. I don't know about medium businesses. It's a give or take. Some advertise aggressively. They have reasonable, consistent revenue streams. Not necessarily great. And that's the thing. In a time where people are spending less, do you spend more to try to get more customers? Or do you say, look, we could sell out, but our revenue, our profits are not going to be great unless we increase our prices. That's going to have its own set of problems. We can't afford to do too much advertising. We can't afford to advertise aggressively. Hopefully we get the customers. It's a balancing act. But I think this Christmas season don't be too alarmed with what you see and what you read in the papers. Just about every Christmas season, you're going to have these reports. It's going to be better for some than it is for others. At the end of the day, we know what's going on. And what we need is a direction out. And we don't really have a direction. Things happen, people say things, the private sector and the charity organizations, they're doing what they do. Hats off to all of the charity organizations that's continuing to function and even attempting to grow their operations for this Christmas. Is there not a cause? Living Waters, and we will have Life Within Life Ministries tomorrow, hopefully. But, well, it's rough. It is rough. And without a direction, it might take longer and it might be rougher. And that's one of the reasons why I have an issue with our leadership, with our unions, with our opposition, with our local politicians, with our cabinet, even some of the larger business community, to be honest. I'm not really seeing the nation, society, even community leaders, and I don't mean gang leaders. We're not rallying together. There's no sense of focus. There's no sense of togetherness. There's no even a basic message that can't cover everything. But it's something for people to look towards, to work towards. We got nothing. And we're going to close out the year. I mean, the budget didn't seem to show us much of a direction, didn't indicate much of an intention that's unified or a plan. We're not hearing anything from anybody else. We're just hearing complaints. And to be fair, that's what we do on the show. But what is the direction? Is the ideology of diversification going to give us a direction? Well, we're not really on that. Food security, that's another ideology. Well, we're not really on that. Private sector growth and job growth. You see, everybody says that they're all for all of these things, but if you're for everything, then that's not a direction, because you're trying to go in all directions at once. But when you're in a situation where things aren't easy, you do tend to be better off prioritizing. That's why in crisis situations where people are gravely injured, wounded, you have triage to try to save those who can be saved, but those who are most critical are pushed at the head of the line. I'm not going to bandage somebody's pinky finger as a heart surgeon if there's a man with something sticking out of his chest that I potentially can save. And even if I can't, even if saving him is difficult, I'm still going to try as opposed to a bandaged pinky finger. But government is, well, we're everything for everything. And the opposition, in all of their campaign slogans, they will be for everything too. Everybody is for everything all the time. There's no direction, there's no focus, there's no ideology. And then what tends to happen is everything gets shortchanged, everything. You get for those votes. And the answer is not much. Napa is not an accomplishment. Sad to say. I knew it then, I know it now. All the big Christmas shows were at Queen's Hall. I wonder why. There are more seats in Napa. Napa's a bigger stage. Infrastructure is so terrible. I mean, they had to get Queen's Hall management to run it. What do we get, folks? What direction are we going? What's the plan? You're a PNM supporter? Tell me, what is the plan? What is the government's plan to get us out of this situation? Tell me, please. You're a UNC supporter? What is the opposition proposing that the government is not doing to get us out of this economic and crime situation? Crime plan too. If you're a PNM supporter, what's the crime plan from the government? Somebody tell me. I mean, not going to let PDP off the hook. I would like to know what their plan is as well. They're young, they got a little bit more leeway, a little bit more rope. But at the end of the day, buck stops where the buck stops. At the head of those respective tables. Watson Duke, he was never someone to take seriously. But that's a whole other situation. Year's almost over, and what do we have to show for it? For the entirety of 2022, we had not much. Let's take a break. When we come back, we'll bring out ASP Ashraf Ali, the man in the hot seat. I apologize in advance, my friend, but the country would like to know, with regards to crime, what's going on, so we'll ask those questions next. Stay tuned.
Better Value Limited has been making gift giving easier and more affordable for over 26 years. Power tools, indoor, outdoor furniture and accessories, mini appliances, designer fragrances, houseware and home decor products, and all your bridal registry items. Now in stock, our stylish loft bed and study desk combo unit for just $16.50. Better Value Limited. Call 235-3709 or visit us at Princestown or Gulview, or check our Facebook page.
Poolside nights, tiles and bath, making your home a work of art.
Step into a spacious place of creative ideas for your home space. Our floor and wall tiles and natural stone is ideal for any use you need in your home. Toilet, bathroom sets and vanities lend design to your creativity, while jacuzzis and shower enclosures create the mood for dwelling on life's pleasures. Lamps and lighting fixtures add ambience and memorable pictures.
Poolside nights, tiles and bath, making your home a work of art.
Oceans Industrial Complex, Union Road, Marabella.
Your Christmas is safe with us at BC. Police Credit Union. Police Credit Union. Your Christmas is safe with us at BC. Police Credit Union. Christmas loan at Police Credit Union today. Borrow up to $25,000 with affordable monthly payments. New members, you get up to $10,000. No interest, no installments until January. Apply online at www.policecreditunion.com. Loan subject to credit approval.
It's the season to be jolly. That brings a smile. That lasts a lifetime from Simon's Musical Supplies. We have drums of all kinds. Quattro, marimba, guitar, trumpet, clarinets, and flutes. At Simon's, we have it all for you. A violin, a mandolin, steel pan, a piano, or simply a music stand. Music books and everything for a band. Simon's Musical Supplies.
Come visit our new location, 24th Street, Port of Spain, or call 625-6412.
Musical trees, all come through.
Join me, Sule A. Joseph, as I delve into the day-to-day psychological issues plaguing our society. We will discuss behaviors that encompass the biological influences, social pressures, and environmental factors that affect how you think, act, and feel. Site, Thursdays at 11:30 a.m., only on WESN, Content Capital.
We're on set with a strength and conditioning coach. His name is Mr. Gregory Seal, and he's going to talk to us a little bit about what strength and conditioning means.
For instance, in the EPL or the La Liga, where it's so high, and I'm constantly hearing young people saying that they want to play in these leagues, but these leagues are demanding physically. So if you're not preparing your bodies for that early, you're not going to make it.
But we also use it as a form of fatigue monitoring.
What's up, Doc? Tuesdays and Thursdays here on WESN, Content Capital.
FanZone, your reliable, authentic supplier, has just gotten better. You can now visit our website, www.fanzonett.com, for your authentic wear and collectibles. The only place where you can use both your Visa debit and credit cards. Visit our website, fanzonett.com, to make your purchase today.
Your Christmas is safe with us at PCU. Police Credit Union. Police Credit Union. Your Christmas is safe with us at PCU. Police Credit Union. Police Credit Union.
Get an easy zero-interest Christmas loan at Police Credit Union today. Borrow up to $25,000 with affordable monthly payments. New members, you get up to $10,000. No interest, no installments until January. Apply online at www.policecreditunion.com. Loan subject to credit approval.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, of course, better late than never. We have with me my co-host, Mr. Keita Shah, and as promised, Mr. Ashraf Ali, the TTPS Media Ambassador for Talking Point. Gentlemen, it is good to see you.
Acting ESP. And first of all, I couldn't miss this opportunity again because we have the police service in the hot seat, so I had to be here.
You all just love to say that you put me on the hot seat, yeah? Unfortunately, crime is a hot topic.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. And, well, of course, there is a situation with the father and son killing in Piarco. Are you able to give us any more information than what's already been reported, or is it still stuff that you can't speak about?
Unfortunately, the investigation is ongoing. there was some social media footage that was rather disturbing.
Yes.
Right, so I don't want to comment on these circumstances because that is an ongoing investigation. But at the end of the day, 2 more lives lost.
Yeah.
Right, and that's a bigger picture. Right.
Are we seeing, you know, Sean and I were having this debate, I think, on Tuesday, with respect to whether or not we're seeing criminals no longer, there used to be a code amongst criminals that you do not interfere with children at all. This year we've heard of children who have been killed basically in the line of fire.
Well, the 1-year-old.
And there was this 1-year-old that happened, I think, on Sunday or Monday. And then previously we had this boy who died in Diego Martin when he was coming home from a wedding with his family. I mean, are you noticing that trend, or?
Well, I could say that when you look at the type of murders that we are having and the type of shootings that results in murders, it seems that the criminals don't even have a code anymore to themselves.
Right.
Right? So collateral damages across the board. And when you look at collateral damage across the board, it means that any and anyone can be subjected to the violence that is taking place.
Usually, family members would not, you know, rat out those who are related to them that might be involved in crime. They would protect them, speak up for them, you know, defend them. When they're accused in the media, they say, no, he was a good boy, the mother all the time, of course. Well, except recently, of course, we actually see where the parents, more often than not, might actually say, well, you know, he was involved in crime and well, he got what he deserved, which is a new development. But could we be seeing that the family members now, they might be actually more vulnerable to this? If I have a family member that's close to me that is now in a criminal activity, I can't just say, well, I'm not involved anymore, you know. And now, could we now look as a society, as the police service, is like, listen, you allow this to continue. It's not just your cousin that might end up face down in a gutter because of his own activity. You might end up there as well, so it's better that you speak to us, right, and stop this from getting any further than it has to be.
Well, and that's why we continue in some of our strategies to get into the communities and get those individuals who may be in those particular type of positions. I mean, let's face it, in these communities, persons know who are involved in certain type of activities, yes, right? There's no need to hide, right? But how do we get those individuals coming forward and giving information? Because at the end of the day, it's not you're defending or you might protecting someone's life. It might be your own family member life you're trying to save.
Now, let me ask you. I mean, we hope to have you on the show next week, but just in the event, I mean, over the last year, you know, 500 with 600 murders, the highest murderers ever. Yeah. And let me ask you, acting ASP, I know you speak on behalf of the TCPS. I mean, you have been very fair. Many a times I've noticed that. But be realistic and as honest as you can. How many murders? Because I've heard the TTPS say about petty crime has been down and we've solved this and we've solved that. How many murder cases have you all actually solved within the last year? If you have that information at the top.
And I would not be able to give you that offhand because we have some murders that was cold case, and based on the fact that we had a cold case unit looking into these murders, we have got some murders this year, actually was solved this year, and some murders this year that actually solved at the same time. So it's when you look at the solve rate, it will be past murders that solved in 2022 and some in 2022. So those data, we can get that data from the analytical data to bring it down to that. But when you look at crime holistically, you're saying petty crimes, but when we look at our strategy, current strategy for the Christmas period, it's trying to alleviate crimes of opportunities. And crimes of opportunities where you have the amount of police present throughout Trinidad and Tobago right now in all the 9 police districts. There's a lot of opportunity for crime, because persons are coming out to shop, persons are, some just enjoying the environment and the atmosphere, just going on window shopping and going to the malls. They may not be shopping, but just enjoying the freedom that we have at this point in time in terms of the COVID lockdown that we're coming out. And this gives a lot of opportunity for persons to commit crime. And on our platforms, we continue to say and preach and give tips on persons being self-aware of their environment. Now, we have a lot of crimes that are taking place on social media. And we want to continue reinforcing that message that when we go and do purchases on social media, the buyer and the seller are also at risk. It is not one-sided. So you have to be very, very cautious and careful how you do business transaction on social media, right? You're just WhatsApping that person with a face. You don't know who the person, who that is. You're making arrangements, walking with that a large amount of cash, and you are actually telling the individual how much cash you intend to walk with for the full price, and you go to a location, and you exchange that.
Right? No, I hear you with respect to that, and I don't mean to cut you, because I know you've stated this on the program before, but I was just going back to my question with respect to murders, because whilst I understand that throughout the world you have cold cases, in the States they have cases, the boy in the box, and I think you know about that particular case in the United States. I think it's close to 40-something years old, and that was recently solved. You know, so I understand all that, but the reason why I'm asking that is because I'm trying to figure out as to how many cases go unsolved, and how many cases, is there an instance where the TTPS just decides, you know what, close this case, it doesn't make sense?
No homicide is closed. It is shelved and considered to be a cold case. It can be reopened just like the rest of, once information comes to hand. It may not be information at this point in time, but during the period of the life of the case, we may get information on it.
And at what point is it that you refer to it as a cold case? Because I'm trying to figure out at what point is it that the Trans-Tobago Police Service stops looking for information and instead awaits for information to come to them?
It depends on the nature of the homicide and investigators' level of investigation in terms of where they reach, or in this case, if they reach a stumbling block. So in that, a decision will be made to put it as a cold case because there's nothing else that they can go further with at this point in time until something else comes forward. And that is why we continue to say for persons to come forward and give information to the police. That is also a challenge we continue to have, because we have the challenge with persons who don't want to come and give information, right? So we also have those type of situations, but generally, you don't just shelve a homicide and say, okay, after 6 months, that's cool. No, it is continually actively being pursued, and all avenues and all leads are explored until you reach a stage where it cannot go any further at that point in time. And you have to consider it to be a cold case, and then you could revisit it after a while.
Well, so I find the dichotomy is interesting, because on one hand, the police is concerned, and I think legitimately so, about people being too trusting with regards to sellers who they've never met. And I'm sure now we're at the 22nd of December, so that means that people are going to be more frantic to try and find something for a Christmas present. Particularly, you could argue, parents for kids, some kind of toy, some kind of whatever, and they might be looking to see, hey, who's selling, who might have this, who might have that online. But the flip side is, people have a hard time potentially trusting the police. And we spoke about it when we had the incident. It also was a video on social media where the officers seemed to be quite aggressive with the man and the child. And I do have to ask, I believe those officers were put on desk duty as it is, but that case aside, are you seeing now more and more difficulty to convince people, hey, look, you could trust us? Because you have other members of the organization, of the service, doing these things. It doesn't necessarily mean that they're gonna put witnesses at risk, but it's still eroding to some extent the public trust. Is this making that more difficult?
Ironically, one video that purports some negativity comes back to trust and confidence. Where's all the videos where police officers are doing good job, stopping on the highways and assisting bypassers, doing a lot of good, being highlighted by the public and by social media and by the media itself.
I hear you, because
yes, understand. So we are just using.
There are actually quite a few stories.
But just we can't just.
But the thing is that one. I hear what you're suggesting, because on social media you could have police officers doing good, and I have seen that. But then people don't remember that. People just remember the
exactly.
negative.
So I don't want to go down that road, because there is just one aspect of it that has been treated with, right, both internally. Note that the persons involved in that incident have been charged and put before the court, right? So that matter is being dealt with. But the issue here is we take one little negative incident and we go onto social media. There are officers right now in this Christmas period that are doing food hampers for the public. Police officers are pulling their resources together and doing food hampers. Where's our social media? That the public is pushing it out. You will see coming through our corporate communication department, right? We have police officers going into the communities, helping clean various grounds.
Well,
and we are doing those type of things. At the same time, all officers on the ground in the hot areas, in the busy zones, trying to ensure that we have public safety and security.
I just want to point out, and I'm actually very happy that you're here today, because this morning I had an interaction with quite a few police officers of the Northeastern Division. I have to admit, I have seen police officers out on the road. They have been out there in their numbers. I only wish that this is something that was permanent, and not only for the Christmas season and the carnival season. Because it's very good to see officers on the street. It gives you a sense of safety and security. And at the same time, it's good that there's that level of interaction between officers and the public. That being said, I had that interaction with a few officers this morning of the Northeastern Division. Unfortunately, I can't remember their names at the top of my head. But they were absolutely pleasant. They were very, very pleasant. They were very, very helpful, even assisting in terms of getting through traffic. Because of a one-way system, I was exiting onto that one-way system, and they stopped traffic. And then, stopped to talk to them. And very pleasant, very professional, extremely kind and courteous. And it's the complete opposite of what you hear of other people's interactions with the TTPS out there. And don't get me wrong, I know that there are bad officers out there. I don't even like using that phrase, bad officers. I don't like to term anybody as a bad officer, but there's just some that do not live by your code, which is to protect and serve. But these officers this morning, I take my hat off to them. Excellent work on the TTPS.
Well, my last question, and we probably don't have much time, so if it's anything, we might have to cut the answer short and continue after the break. But from your position, because obviously technically it would not come to you, it would, at least originally, I believe it would have gone to the commissioners, the commissioner and that unit, which is in that political controversy now. Given that we're seeing victims now, it seems as though the gangs have no more of a code. Are there more and more private citizens looking to try to protect themselves? Because whether or not, you have confidence in police, there is always that initial confrontation where, you're not guaranteed to get a police response right at the second, right? No matter how much faith you have in them, there's realistic things to consider. And we're seeing now where families and their children are in the line of fire. Are we seeing more of that potential vigilantism, or at least self-protection, being more and more of a thing?
I wouldn't use the word vigilante, but you're seeing more persons. We are encouraging persons to form community groups within their area, watch groups for themselves, because at the end of the day, if you can't look after your own community, the help will come. But you are the first. Your neighbor, you ought to look after your neighbor. To look after you, and this Christmas period when we have people who going out of the states, the country, going to visit, going to other areas, you leave your house open, right? And if you can't tell your neighbor and trust your neighbor and tell them that I won't be home for the next 2 weeks, and you're worried about that, this is where we reach, right?
The good old neighborhood watching effect, those signs that used to be posted in close-knit communities, I don't see that much anymore.
Yeah, because we have challenges in terms of even people trusting their own neighbors.
Yeah, I mean, I think with the Piarco shooting, part of it is elements that are moving into the area, I think was one of the lamentations.
It's a huge concern, actually, because even I know that in a neighborhood, when they see a car that they don't know, people start to panic.
Folks, we have to take a break. When we come back, we'll open up the phone lines, and I did have some questions for you with regards to, tell me, if you are a political supporter, what are the plans of your party to solve some of these issues? But also, do you want to see, well, more hard justice in TNT? Whether or not we agree, that's a whole other kettle of fish. Stay tuned, news on the hour next.
Here is your WESN News on the Hour. I am Marquise Akers. Thanks for joining us. Here are the headlines. President in quarantine after mother contracts COVID. Prison officers charged with contraband. Former senator says government needs to crack down on drug trade. And internationally, 8 Canadian teen girls charged with killing a man. Now for the details. President Paula May Weeks is currently in quarantine after her mother tested positive for COVID-19. The president said that the good news is her mother, who was vaccinated and boosted, experienced only mild symptoms and is now symptom-free, but still being monitored carefully. It says President Weeks, also vaccinated and boosted, continues to test negative and is working from home during the quarantine period. Former Senator Pastor Clive Dotton believes that if there were a crackdown on the drug trade, the country would see a decrease in crime. He was speaking on the issue on WESN's AM Prime.
The murders are becoming more and more gruesome, and it calls for a total, I mentioned the 4 areas that we have to look at, but certainly we have to pay more attention to the drug trade, because once you have the drug trade and they're going to have arms, nobody enters the drug trade without having sufficient protection around them. And the protection is not, basically knives, it's basically guns.
The Trinidad and Tobago Prison Service is confirming the arrest and charge of a prison officer during an intelligence-based exercise on a Tuesday. According to an initial report, prisons officer Kevon Christopher and his vehicle were searched by members of the Northern Division Task Force, following information received about his involvement in illegal activities. The search resulted in the discovery and confiscation of several packets containing plant-like material in his vehicle. The officer, who has over 7 years of service, is attached to the maximum security prison, was cautioned about his actions and taken into custody. And internationally, 8 teenage girls have been charged with the murder in the Saturday night stabbing of a 59-year-old man in downtown Toronto, authorities said. Police said the girls, aged between 13 and 16, seemed to have met online before meeting in person on the night of the attack, possibly for the first time. They were arrested near the crime scene shortly after midnight on Sunday. The man, who has not been named, had been living in a shelter for the homeless at the time of the assault. Well, that's news to the hour in WESN. I am Marquise Akers. Thanks for watching.
Take some time for yourself or spend some time with the family at Sandy Point Village Hotel. Enjoy our various studio and suite apartments, self-contained with their own kitchenettes and Wi-Fi. We also have our famous 100-foot swimming pool and our beachfront restaurant, the Steak and Lobster Grill. And our location in Crown Point puts us near the center of activity, from the nylon pool to the local nightlife. Call us and make your reservations at 639-8533, 389-2378, or email us at sandypointvillagehotel@gmail.com. Welcome back to Talking Point, ladies and gentlemen. Of course, now is the time we open up the phone lines for you, the viewer, have your say. We have the media ambassador here, so if you want to, get on his case about something, he is available. He makes himself available.
Don't need to get on his
case.
He
is brave. He's a brave man, Mr. Ali.
He has no choice.
But also, like my co-host, if you have something good to say about the TTPS, because the acting ASP is correct. We don't hear enough of the good, because while we will say yes, there will be some bad cops, there have to be some good cops. Otherwise, then we would have been in a state of total anarchy, which we're not. So that is a sign that there are good police officers out there, and those things need to be highlighted too, so they get the credit that they deserve.
Here's a question for you, acting ASP. Are you a good cop?
I am.
You are.
I mean, I am a good police
officer. He is acting ASP for a reason. That's a...
Really? That doesn't say much, by the way.
That's a promotion. That's a promotion. He's not constable. He's not, Officer PC, Ashraf Ali.
Trust me, I congratulate him on it, but it doesn't necessarily mean much, at least in how you're trying to, put it. But acting ASP, the PCA from last year, October, to this year, September, which is their reporting year, received over 1,000 reports, which they've investigated. And they're encouraging, citizens to come forward and register their complaints. Is this worrisome for the police at all? The fact that they've indicated that they've received over 1,000 reports in the last year?
It is not. I would not say it worried. I would say it's a good sign. It means that the public is seeking our interests, and the public is asking for proper service. So that is giving us the opportunity to look at these situations and improve on our quality of service.
Well, we have a caller from San Fernando. Just before we take the call, I'd just like to say, people, please try to be quick. Give other people a chance to have time to make their points after you. And also, please mute your TV when you're on the air, because there is a delay and we don't want people to get confused. We have a caller from San Fernando. Good morning, caller.
Gentlemen, nice to see ASP Ali back with us.
Yes. Thank you, sir.
ASP Ali, I have a little bone to pick with you for some answers that the commissioner, acting commissioner, gave at the Joint Civil Committee on Crime. It was instructive to listen to the commissioner say that in 2019, just with some work with some other agencies, international agencies, that they found that only 5% of the arms and ammunition are coming into the country were coming through Venezuela, which they thought previously was much more than that. He said 5%. I listened to him. And I am amazed that since 2019, if the police service knew that there haven't been more extensive collaboration with the custom and excise and to deal with this situation, because they have known since then, 3 years now, that it's coming to legal ports.
Caller, sorry if I may interject. That is 5% that they know of, huh? That's 5% that they know of. Anyway, continue.
Yes, so, well, I call in the commissioner and say 5%. So I have to go by what he says. And I was amazed that during that question that I did not hear anything of the extensive collaboration since then. I mean, I can't blame the commissioner because he just came in. But the police service has been there. That's my point. The police service has been there since then, since they have that information. And while ASP Ali, while I applaud you all for doing all that you said you all are doing, and we know that you all in the community.
Okay.
It has not. The
All right,
barrier is still there.
I know we have a caller in St. James.
Yeah.
We need to take a quick break, actually. A very, very quick break. A caller from St. James. I'm going to ask you to just hold there. I will take that break, and when we return, we'll take your call from St. James, and we give the acting ASP a chance to respond.
Yeah.
We'll be right back after this.
It's the season to recharge. That brings a smile that lasts a lifetime from Simon's Musical Supplies. We have drums of all kinds: quattro, marimba, guitar, trumpet, clarinets, and flutes. At Simon's, we have it all for you. A violin, a mandolin, steel pan, a piano, or simply a music stand. Music books and everything for a band. Simon's Musical Supplies.
Come visit our new location, 20 Board Street, Port of Spain, or call 625-6412.
Musical trees, all come through.
Okay, just before we take the caller, acting ASP, if you could just answer the previous call.
For the caller for San Fernando, he mentioned that the information came from a joint select committee where the commissioner was given. At that point in time, I would humbly respectful view is that information he pointed to was the commissioner. He would have been making those statements based on the data that he have, right? But we do have collaboration with other agencies. The police service have collaboration with Customs, Port Authority, and other agencies externally. The extent of the collaboration may not be in public knowledge, right? But they do in fact happen.
I'd just like to point out to viewers, if they might not realize, while it might seem as though politics, even in the various arms of the protective services, run things at the tops, there is still an actual hierarchy of authority that they can't necessarily break or circumvent. We do have a caller from St. James. Good morning, caller.
Good morning.
Sorry about that,
Good
callers. Thank you for holding on to us. What do you like to ask us this morning?
This is to the acting assistant superintendent. Listen, I, like the rest of the citizenry, I'm very concerned about, when we read and hear of ammunition found on the crime scene by the regiment. Something has to be wrong. Instead of, we sort of look towards these agencies in trying to protect. Well, I'm not sure whether it's the actual regiment involved, but somehow the ammunition is getting out of these secured places into the hands of criminals. What really, what is going on? I mean, I'm trying to understand this whole thing. Bye.
Bye. Thank you, caller. I mean, yes, I actually forgot about that as well. That is another issue that we've noticing coming up more frequently.
But the question now, I cannot say whether they are wrongs belonging to the regiment or not.
Okay.
But what we notice is the caliber of the wrongs, 5.56, 7.62, that are used by particular type of weapons. So I cannot say definitely that those weapons and those wrongs came out of the or Defense Force weapons. Ammunition, I should say.
I have a question for you, but we have a caller on the line with us from Shook Corners. So let's take this call first, and then, good morning, caller.
Hello, gentlemen.
Good morning, Professor.
The government is complaining that 70% of the people want them to fail on crime. But that is better than 100% of the cabinet who want us to fail on crime. Because they are the ones supposed to promote law and order, and we have no annual administrative reports on them. The second point I would like to make, we have all this abuse about children in these homes. And we have names called. Why is there no prosecution against anybody? Any questions, gentlemen?
No, I think you had questions for us, so let's try and answer that for you off here. All right?
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Have a good day.
Thank you, Professor. That's a good point he made, because I guess that's the implication of what we and a lot of people are saying, that 100% of the cabinet seems to want the situation to fail. We're not saying that's the actual truth. It's a joke. Okay, it's just a joke. But there's some truth to the joke. Just enough to make it funny.
I also wanted to tie that back into something with respect to the firearm users license reports that the Prime Minister wished to lay in Parliament. He seems very eager to lay it in Parliament.
You saw the AG's response?
And the, not really actually, I just want to go through before I speak about it, but I noticed how eager the Prime Minister is to lay this in Parliament. Yep. And again, High Court judges have said the injunction holds. The thing for me is, what I've realized is that the Prime Minister is playing politics with respect to our national security, because though I am in agreement that we should be aware of all wrongdoing, if there's any wrongdoing, if the Prime Minister was so confident that there was wrongdoing, in my opinion, this should be something that he doesn't have to lay in Parliament. He's laying it in Parliament for political reasons. Send it straight to the Director of Public Prosecutions. That's how you get things done in this country. In fact, send that report as well to the TTPS and the DPP. Let's see what happens from there if you notice that there's wrongdoing and criminal wrongdoing. The only reason why you lay it in Parliament is for political purposes, and we cannot play politics with our crime. You see, he's so eager to try and mute Gary Griffith because he does have a lot of support. He's quite popular, and there are those who disagree with him and those who stand against him, and I've heard those arguments as well. But the thing is that if you're really serious about it, if you're going after Gary Griffith, who's no longer in any position under national security, rather he's a political opponent, I suppose, then you would be so eager to go after Minister Fitzgerald Hines, who has also failed. You know, so you have to choose precisely where your mind is and what your ideals are. And clearly your ideals are, get rid of all my political opponents, keep my political puppets there, because Gary Griffith is no longer there. Gary Griffith is not any minister. He's not even part of the TTPS anymore. But you have a Minister of National Security who you don't even, it doesn't seem as though you all are collaborating on anything at all. An individual with no vision, no plan, nothing at all. And yet still, this report, if there was wrongdoing, send it to the DPP, don't lay it in Parliament. And this is why Fitzgerald Hines coming out and making such a statement is ludicrous.
I mean, it's interesting because I also had a take on it earlier, but I do just want to direct to the ASP. Not that, but with regards to the allegations for the children's homes, what could you just tell us, like, what are some of the technicalities that might be holding up those sort of investigations?
I know that the investigation is ongoing, right? The stages where they are at this point in time, it may not be, the public may want a faster response.
Well, a follow-up though. So because it was reported that, well, it was, I guess, a photo opportunity for the government. They opened up a home for migrant girls, gave it to the management of St. Jude's to run. And now St. Jude's has allegations against them. Is this something that might be concerning to the TTPS? If the previous home that they are also running has allegations of grooming, that they might need to monitor this new facility as well?
Well, we hope that they would.
The gender-based violence units and child protection unit will be actually still monitoring all those agencies where you have children involved. Right?
We have a call actually, from Claxton Bay. Good morning, caller from Claxton Bay.
Morning.
Morning,
Morning.
Mr. Fisherman.
Morning, Fisherman here. Morning to the panel there.
Morning.
And best for the season, best for the colleagues.
Yes, you too.
I want to find if the refinery service patrol boat were working.
Simple.
Yes. That boat working.
Yes,
boats are leaving here day and night and coming in between from Venezuela. Because you what all these wild meters selling on the roadside, these vans, it's not 200 meters, you know. Is that coming from outside? All these goatees is selling on the roadside. That coming from the outside is illegal.
All right, caller.
sometimes you're calling these revenue unit and you can't get no feedback from them. All right, listen up. Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, I can make an excuse for the riverine units. If TSTT is their service provider, then they probably won't receive any calls. But then again, let me not make that stupid claim. You go ahead.
No, our riverine unit is actually functional. They have some minor challenges with the boat. That will be rectified in the shortest possible time.
How many boats do they have?
We have 2 units on, at this point in time.
Just 2.
So, but the thing about it is that the expectation of the riverine unit, it's widespread. Right? So you look at the areas that they want the riverine unit to cover.
Yeah.
So there is going to be the expectation to cover a lot.
Basically, there's not enough boats in the riverine unit to cover the shoreline, which is the same issue that we have with the Coast Guard. The only difference is, well,
you know what? Honestly,
you could bypass 2 boats.
There isn't the call, but acting ASP, I don't know. I'm tired of hearing. We having issues with the boats. What happened? There's not enough gas. What is it?
We head off from the Coast Guard.
Because
I wouldn't even go down that road.
I know you wouldn't even go. I'm really tired of hearing this, man.
We have a next caller from Arima. Good morning, caller.
Morning, gentlemen.
Good morning.
Caesar's greetings.
And to you.
I asked all this question earlier, and still I ain't getting a response about it.
What's that?
When you hire somebody to do a job,
Uh-huh.
and they're getting results, isn't that the purpose for hiring them in the first place? So, if the Prime Minister have a problem with Gary Griffith and Gary Griffith was getting results, well, then something had to be wrong.
Well, yeah.
And to further compound the matter, when he goes to Parliament, he could put his spin on it and lie.
And that is
He
why
cannot come out in the public domain here and say what he wants to say because they will sue the clothes off him.
And caller, this is precisely why, because under Parliament, there's Parliament privileges, and you're absolutely right. This is why I'm suggesting that if there is wrongdoing, I want to know about the wrongdoing. You forward this to the office of the DPP.
No, well, Keaton, look at it this way, right? Photographs were shown of Mr. Arawi's children testing automatic weapons in Komuto. So, what is the difference between his children and ours? If a businessman has a big family, and he applies and he gets 5 or 6 FULs, because I don't think he would have 5 or 6 guns for himself.
Yeah.
He'd have one for his wife and one for his adult children.
Yeah.
Nothing is wrong with that.
Yeah. Okay, we have another.
These people have cocoa in the sun.
Yeah. We have another caller, but thank you though, because you made an interesting point. I never thought about that situation with the AG before, but I do have to say, because he tried to say, well, my family is at risk, so they need to defend themselves. Are they really walking around with assault rifles themselves?
My family's at risk.
To defend themselves?
My family's at risk, so you know what?
They need that training?
We're going to take photos of them posing with weapons. That's what we're going to do. So my family's at risk.
I actually think they were shooting, but anyway.
No, but that's the thing. Whether or not they were shooting, my family's at risk, so we're going to take photos of them.
My only thing is, though, some people will debate the results from Gary Griffith, but one could argue, at the very least, he was no worse than, well, the current minister and ministers before him.
And the current Commissioner of Police, with all due respect to you, sir. Call on the line with us?
Yes.
From Mearo. Good morning, caller.
Hi, good morning, gentlemen.
Morning.
And a pleasant day to the citizens of Trinidad and Tobago.
Yes.
And of WSN, the #1 program, who helps enlighten the citizen to think positive. Because too many times we take the issues that we identify and we throw it in a basket of goodies. And Sean will agree with me on this because he tapped in our minds for us to see the bigger picture. And I must commend him on that. Officer Ali, I want to say something to you. When Mr. Gary Griffith was here, doing his job, he lays, and I'm talking about the sector of agriculture, he lays with previous Lassani's squad, and he came to the farmers, and he said, let's unite. And you know,
that good proactive measure falls straight down to the ground. Now, I'm not blaming you or any heads of department. All I'm saying is system. Now, farmers are seeing so many problems on the ground, and we go to the police station to make a report. They have no resources to deal with the matter. Would you think that the farmers in this country believe in the police and law-abiding as citizens, or we are allowing the UL area to be bombarded by the criminals who leave from developed areas and come in UL areas to continue to tap into our hard-working citizens who build in our community. And this is where we're failing. Not just Gary alone failing, or he has failed, but who is our leader today? I ask you, please shed some light. Thank you.
Thank you, caller. Have a good day. Please shed some light.
And what? The caller made absolutely clear what he was talking about. There's no,
I guess he
no
was,
light
he was asking the question of who is leading us today, and I am assuming specific to crime. That might be a question that you cannot answer.
Right now, we have an acting commissioner of police, Mr. Ella Christopher, that I can speak to right now. That is the head of the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service.
Oh, I'd actually love to speak to her, so maybe we can try and organize that sometime.
You want to put the acting commissioner?
No, acting commissioner in the form of Miss Ella Christopher or McDonald Jacob. Welcome to Talking Point.
All right, so I'm just going to say more or less that's it for phone calls, because I want to get your quick opinion on this, and that is the AG basically said it was always the intention of the Prime Minister for people named and or implicated in the FUL Audit Committee's report to be given an opportunity to be heard. But I said earlier at the top of the show that when he said that he wanted to put it in Parliament as Parliament reopened, and I believe that was all the way back in September, am I correct? There was no qualifier. He didn't say anything about allowing people to be heard. All he said was he wanted it to be put in Parliament. So now, after losing 2 court cases, right? Not just the initial hearing, but the appeal as well. Now the AG trots out to tell us what the Prime Minister's intention was. Don't mind that the Prime Minister could have given us that intention from the start, but he didn't, right? And now he doesn't even come out himself to tell us, well, I always intended for this to happen. He sends the AG out to do it instead.
What more you want me to say? You just said it all. What more do you want me to say? I think we're very fortunate, Trinidad and Tobago, that if we can't see through the opaque, very, very opaque glass that this Prime Minister speaks to us from, that we're fortunate that we have an Attorney General who is able to do so. Whether it was in the form of Faris Arawi, who at times had to save the Prime Minister, and now
he actually saved the Prime Minister?
Listen, nobody could have saved Faris, but Faris could have saved everybody else. And Reginald Amor, in this instance, well, put it this way, Prime Minister Dr. Keith Rowley, if it was always your intention, I never got that impression.
Another thing, I've actually reached the point. Okay, you can criticize Hines, fine, I understand, that's media, your job. I am actually...
It's not my job to criticize.
Well, right, but I am actually saying, we've reached the point, we know who he is. We know what his record is. We need to, move on, because I am very much disappointed that the opposition spent the effort and the energy to just do more piling on Fitzgerald Hines, and as the opposition, not say, hey, but this is what we would do differently. And let's publish this. And let's put this on record of what we would do differently. And if the government tries to steal our ideas, we have it on record that no, these are our ideas. But more importantly, this is why you should consider us in the next election. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying, well, that's who to blame. That's the source of all your problems. And that's basically the ugly side of politics that gets us nowhere.
One, the opposition has no plans because the opposition right now is the opposition. And I think that I've always said it, that Kamala Bissau-Bissau was the greatest thing to happen to the Keith Rowley-led administration, right? And I don't mean that in a insulting manner.
No, you're saying it factually.
And two, at the same time, the opposition is trying a strategy that Keith Rowley did between 2010 and 2015, which was successful for him. He was an excellent opposition leader. Terrible in this particular instance, but an excellent opposition leader. Essentially, what it is that you're just waiting for the government to hand you everything, and then we're going to pose it.
It's happening.
They
It's
have
happening.
no plan, but also I want everybody to bear in mind the next election. I said it for the 2020 election, and I'm saying it for the next election in 2025. Neither the United National Congress nor the People's National Movement want to win the election. Think about it. We could discuss it tomorrow. Neither of them want to actually win the election.
And I'll just point this out. The reason why ideology is important, when there's an opposition in America or the UK or other countries, they will point out what their philosophies are, what their plans that come out from those philosophies. So you know what you're supposed to be voting for. We just vote in for everything and everybody because we want to try and do everything all the time. Everybody wants to try and do everything all the time. What does that result? Nothing. Everything is done incomplete. Acting ASP, not necessarily your purview, but we want to thank you for coming out here again just before Christmas to talk to us and, you know, be in the hot seat and reiterate the messages for people to be safe during the next weekend is going to be a high-risk time, I'm sure.
You're telling people to be safer, but I hope the TTPS, and I've seen them out there working out, but I hope they try and make it even more safe for the
Well, I hope the public appreciates the efforts that the police services putting out at this point in time. It's tough, because the officers are coming out and giving additional hours, and they are there right through, right? And we also have families, and we also would like to have this time for our families, but we are sacrificing that because we have to be outside there, right, to protect and serve. We do have some challenges in terms of some negative publicity, but I just want to ask the public to look at all the good things that we have been doing so far, right, and highlight those things for us.
I see some good things. I do.
Right, so people be safe outside there. Remember that even though in the yachting season, persons will be drinking of some things that have alcohol in it. Be careful on the roads. Be very careful on the roads. Take care of your other citizens. Be mindful of them, right? And for all those persons, I mean, we will see us next year. If we see us next year, but for Christmas, next week, maybe next week, right? But for the Christmas period, I want to wish you all a Merry Christmas and enjoy the holidays. I'm not a Christmassy person, but because working in the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service, holidays are not holidays, your holidays. We have to be out there.
Of course.
Well, happy Christmas to you and your family.
Well, folks, just quick, all are we in this together? So what does that mean? What the ASP just said. Be careful, look out for each other on your road, for your neighbors. Think about or consider the safety of the people around you. But also, you know what, in politics, don't just vote for yourself on your side. Vote for the country. Vote for the other side. Hey, what about that?
Sure.
Keaton?
30 seconds, I'll just simply say, ladies and gentlemen, please, if you are able to and willing, donate one can or one meal to a family this Christmas. There are many out there who are less fortunate than we are, and though times are tough, it'll go a long way. Just put a smile on their face, make their home a little bit merrier. And just remember, today is a good day to have a great day. I'm Keaton Shaw, Sean Michael Small. This has been Talking Points, and we'll see you again tomorrow morning. Bye-bye.
WESN.
It's Christmas time, and with your family you'll spend every evening watching a movie on WESN. The classics that fill your heart with merriment and cheer as we celebrate together the most wonderful time of the year.
This is my island in December.
This Christmas, WESN celebrates with you as the content capital brings the big screen classics. Join us with your loved ones Mondays to Saturdays from 8 p.m. and Sundays at 9 p.m. for We Christmas Movie Classics.
Santa's coming to town! Oh my God! Santa here? I know him! I know him!
only on WESN, Content Capital.
Living in victory every day.
Inspire, motivate, encourage, hope. It's about topical issues. It's about everything that you would want to know about hope, about life. At the end, you're going to say, yes, if he can do it, I can do it too. If she can, I can do it too.
No matter what they say, living in victory every day.
Nicole Lawson Live, living in victory every day. Every Sunday at 8 p.m. and Wednesday at 4:30 p.m. on WESN.
The newest book is here, Closer to the Church, the debut novel by author and former mayor Louis Lee Singh. Available at all the home store branches, Barataria, West Mall, Shogunas and C3 San Fernando. Paper-based bookshop 10 Nook Avenue, St. Anne's. WESN 30A Gattaca Street, Woodbrook. Metropolitan Bookshop, Ariapita Avenue, Woodbrook, and all RIK bookstores nationwide. Available online as paperback on Amazon.com and Kindle for e-readers. For more info, call 628-5835 or 389-6504. Also available from author Louis Lee Singh, I Used to Live in Heaven, Letters to My Granddaughters, and Local Government in Trinidad, Conspiracy Against the People.
I am Rondell Donowa, and you are watching WESN, the Content Capital.
People really want to know, what about me? Where do I fit? Yes. What is in the ride for me in terms of a better Trinidad and Tobago? And I'm pleased to shed some light on that.
The purpose of bail is to ensure your attendance at court. That's it. It is not punitive. It is not rehabilitative.
We, the police officers, we are professional, and we are here for whenever the survivor is ready to come forward.
We have the right to private and family life, the right to religious freedoms and beliefs and thoughts and expression. But these rights are not absolute. Certain rights can be limited.
The law is to govern the whole. It's for all of us in public.
I am Sule A. Joseph, and we are WESN, Content Capital. Join me, Sule A. Joseph, as I delve into the day-to-day psychological issues plaguing our society. We will discuss behaviors that encompass the biological influences, social pressures, and environmental factors that affect how you think, act, and feel. Sight, Thursdays at 11:30 a.m., only on WESN, Content Capital.
We're on set with a strength and conditioning coach. His name is Mr. Gregory Seal, and he's going to talk to us a little bit about what strength and conditioning means.
For instance, in the EPL or the La Liga, where it's so high, and I'm constantly hearing young people saying that they want to play in these leagues, but these leagues are demanding physically. So if you're not preparing your bodies for that early, you're not going to make it. But we also use it as a form of fatigue